Welcome back to the Natty Project, brought to you by myself, your host, Jared Moore. Today, we're going to be talking about macronutrients, what they are, and how they benefit you in your overall fitness goals. In the fitness industry, we call them macros. This is short for macronutrients. Your macronutrients are going to be your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. They are your main three nutrients when we're factoring in what your diet is going to consist of, and when we factor out the smaller nutrients in terms of sugar, sodium, and everything else alike. So when we talk about macronutrients, we dive a little bit into proteins first. Typically, when we build out a diet, that's going to be the most important part of the diet. It differs based on the person, how much they weigh, what their goals are, and everything like that. But the reason protein is the most important, that's going to be what aids in your muscle growth. It's going to keep you satiated, and it's going to build lean muscle over time. So in keeping you satiated, it's also going to hold muscle where we need it the most. It's going to help it when our muscle breaks down through protein synthesis and everything like that. The reason protein is so important before and after a workout is because that's where our body is going to look to replace what we just broke down in breaking down the muscle fibers through working out. That's going to be different based on each person when we think about where your protein should align. So the formula that we use to figure out what your protein number should be based on, your body composition, we take your overall, what your weight is, and then you take 0.7 to a gram per pound. So for example, if you have a 150 pound person, baseline, we're going to look, the most amount of protein they would need to reach their goals is going to be 150. Now, those goals are going to change. So if someone's looking to put on more muscle in a short amount of time, we're going to have them eating a larger amount of protein. If someone is looking to, lean down over time, we're not really going to drop below that protein, but the bare minimum amount of protein will be 0.7. So you take that overall number, and then you're going to take 0.7 to whatever the weight is. So if you have, say, a 100-pound person, they're going to be looking at bare minimum 70 grams of protein per day just to be satiated, just for their body to replenish the needs. So that's a little bit about the proteins just to get started. That's going to be your most important macronutrient. The second macronutrient or macro that we're going to talk about is the carbs. You have two different forms of carbs. You have your complex carbs, which are long chains of sugar molecules, and then you have your simple carbs, which are going to be two sugar molecules, and it's going to make them simple in structure. So these sugars are going to include, fructose, which is found in your fruits, sucrose, glucose, everything like that. The differences in what these carbs do and where they're found, some examples. Complex carbs, you're looking at oats, beans, potatoes, whole wheat bread, things like that. Simple carbs, you're looking at juices, candy, white bread, honey, white rice, things like that. If you're looking for something for short-term energy before a workout, you're going to look towards your simple carbs first. Simple reason that they're broken down differently. So, your simple carbs have less fiber. They have less things that are going to take as long to digest. So when you're looking for that quick burst and you see, maybe someone's eating candy or they're eating a Rice Krispie treat or whatever it may be before a workout, that's not necessarily going to keep them satiated as long. It's more so going to give them that quick energy burst to get going into their workout. Whereas if you were looking for a full meal and you need a carb source there, you might use a sweet potato, you might use brown rice, quinoa, anything like that. That's the differences in your complex and your simple carbs. So that's going to be your second macronutrient. Your third and final macronutrient is going to be your fats. You have a couple different types of fats. You have your saturated fats, you have your monounsaturated fats, and then you have your polyunsaturated fats. Your saturated fats are going to be saturated with hydrogen atoms. These are ideally this is the fat that we want to avoid as much as possible. If you're thinking of a McDonald's cheeseburger, if you're thinking of a Five Guys cheeseburger, whatever it might be, this is what's going to be loaded with those fats because of the oils they cook in, the way they fry the food, everything like that. We want to keep this as low as possible because this is directly linked to health risks, typically around the heart. A lot of health risks come from dietary, not restrictions, but the way your diet is run, the way it's formed. So we want to avoid these as much as possible, keep them low within the diet. In turn, we're going to replace them with monounsaturated fats. They're not going to be saturated with those atoms. These are going to be your oils, your nut butters, and everything like that, but they're going to be heart healthy. So, it might be avocado oil, it might be olive oil, it might be peanut butter, which is just salt and peanuts. It's not going to be anything else in that mixture. And this is going to be your healthy fats. They keep you both satiated and they are healthy overall for your body. Your body needs these fats. And then your polyunsaturated fats. So the body actually can't produce this. It's going to be your omega-3s, your omega-6s. It's incredibly beneficial to replenish that, as we can't produce it, but we do benefit from it. It's going to be your fatty fish like salmon. And a little bit of the myth around fat in the fitness industry is that, excess fat is what makes us fat. It's not necessarily true. It's multiple things that feed into that over a long period of time. Fats are beneficial. We do need our fats, and we need our healthy fats every day just to function. So, even on a day-to-day basis, the easiest way to get your fats, if it fits within your diet, you can think eggs, you can think avocado, you can think oils, you can think, butters, nut butters, almond butters, everything like that. Find a way to fit them into each meal to keep you satiated and keep you reaching your goals. So those are your 3 macronutrients. Now, a little bit about those macronutrients and why they're important. I dove into the importance of each one individually, but if we're talking about a fitness goal and whether that goal may be gaining weight, losing weight, getting stronger, getting faster, whatever it is, we do have to count those macros and make sure we're on point. So, we always recommend counting macros with, emphasis on taking care of the mental side of it, as we talked about last week. And, I'll talk a little bit about that later in terms of eating disorders and, trigger warning, but they can come from counting macros, but it can also be incredibly beneficial if done properly. So there's a couple different apps that we can use for this. My personal preference is going to be MyFitnessPal. You can download it on your iPhone, anything like that. It's completely free. There are in-app purchases that are made available, but they're not required. Essentially how it works, once we build out your macros that are right for your goals over a period of time, that's just how you log your food. It's going to break down based off of a barcode, whatever's in that food. So say, for example, you have 3 large eggs, you have 2 pieces of white toast and avocado on that toast. What we're going to do is we're going to weigh the avocado, we're going to log the 3 eggs, and then we're going to log the bread, whether it was 2 slices, 3 slices, whatever it might be, inside of that app. From there, immediately it's going to tell you your calories, your fats, your proteins, your carbs, and then it's going to give you your micronutrients as well. It's going to tell you what sugar was in there and everything else like that in case you factor that in. But in terms of a bodybuilding aspect, we don't necessarily factor those in as heavily. What it's going to do is it's going to give you a guideline of what you're actually eating. So a typical problem that we run into, not even just in the United States, just humans in general, is we are unfamiliar with serving sizes. Although it is prevalent in the United States, it is very bad. It is an issue. When you think about a serving size of peanut butter being 2 tablespoons, that is about 2-ish spoonfuls. And when you spread that on a slice of bread, you're most likely going over a serving. And that's something that automatically you just took in an extra 90 calories, 100 calories, whatever it may be. And it's, I'm not losing weight. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And those little things. So MyFitnessPal just keeps us on point. We do have to weigh the food. We do have to scale out the food with a measuring cup or a scale in grams, whatever it might be, just to get the exact amount. But it's going to give you your calories to a T to end the day. Whether it's 1,631 calories or 3,517 calories, it's going to give it all to you with a little bit of roundup. They will round up if it's 0.8, 0.9, whatever it might be. But that's going to help us in whatever our goal may be. So if we're trying to lose weight, we want to be in a 200, 300 calorie deficit. That's how we do it. If we want to gain weight, we want to be in anywhere from a 300 to a 700 calorie surplus. That's how we do it. And you figure out, what your calorie needs are based off your total daily expenditure, which we'll get into in a later episode, but that is how you find your streamlined macros to get started, and then you change based off of how your body is adjusting. Other directions that you can go with this, if you might be, you might be vegan, you might be plant-based, whatever it may be, vegetarian, there are options out there. You just have to do your research. So you'll have plant-based protein powders. They won't use, they'll use soy protein, they'll use other forms of protein. You have, obviously your plant-based meats and everything like that. There are ways to get your protein in every single day. You just might have to do a little bit of research. You might have to read a couple more labels. But everywhere you go, just get in the habit of flipping it over and reading the nutrition label, because some of these foods are filled with micros and macros that you would have never known. You might not know that one singular Pop-Tart has 90 grams of carbs or 100 grams of carbs, somewhere within that range. And for some people, if you're cutting, that might be, half of your total allotted amount of carbs, and that's something that you have to factor in. That Rice Krispie treat that you eat before a workout, that's probably 30 to 45 grams of carbs, and you might only be allotting for 200 grams of carbs in the day. That's a good chunk of your carbs for the day, and that's probably why you're not reaching those goals as quickly as you would like to reach those goals. So, a lot of different ways to go about this. Just do research, do your own research, take, the knowledge that we give, take your own knowledge, start flipping over labels and everything like that. Just get in the habit of starting to understand things a little bit better, and, grow your knowledge platform. But the way we go about this, you take those macros, you have a little bit of background now. So what's the next step? Listen, ideally we want to meal prep if we can. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you energy during your busy day. And it's going to make things a whole lot easier to reach those goals. So if you meal prep your entire day out and, you follow a relatively steady diet, save yourself a day to go enjoy yourself, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, but Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, keep it tight, keep it consistent based off of those goals, and meal prep. So whether you're a person who makes it all in the morning or all on Sunday or all on Wednesday, whatever it might be, you have to kind of get in a rhythm. It's going to set you up for success, and you're also going to know that you're hitting your macros every single day. So, if you're waking up, you're going into the day, your breakfast is already either planned out or made, your lunch is already planned out or made, your dinner is already planned out or made, and all your other meals are already made or planned out. You don't have to worry about, trying to find the macro and micronutrients at the end of the day. That some of us might run into that problem down the road. So, you might be faced with, if you're bulking, 200 grams of carbs at the end of the day. How are you possibly going to get that in? But if you factor it out throughout the course of the day and you planned out your meals, it becomes a whole lot easier. And again, we can do that through MyFitnessPal, to log each meal individually. They let you adjust how many meals you have during the day. So me, for example, I have 5. They give me 5 different categories for each meal that I'm having, and I can get those calories in particular and the micros and macros per meal. That's honestly the best part. So I can see my macros just from breakfast alone in a little diagram, a little pie chart, and kind of figure out where my fats were, where my carbs were, where my protein was, everything like that. And then I had mentioned earlier talking about eating disorders and, how that factors in and how we have to really stay, in tune with our mental health and listen to our body cues. So mental health is very big, in my life. And I think it's very big in a lot of college students' lives at this point. And the gym is very, very beneficial. But once you start to get used to the gym, you want to reach for the next goals, which we understand. And that comes from diet. So I mentioned counting your macros, tracking your macros. Take that with a grain of salt, tread lightly. So me being somebody who bodybuilds, yes, I'm going to track every single day and I'm going to weigh everything. I'm putting a piece of bread on a scale to get the exact gram because the label on the back is close, but it's not always accurate. And I don't want others to fall down that hole in just trying to get started. Use this as a guide, use it as a baseline. Don't abuse it, right? Because if you do and it starts to take control of you and you feel the need to track everything you eat, wherever you go, if you're eating out, tracking sauces, tracking vegetables, tracking all the little things, at some point you might decide to do that, but it can't be forced. It can't be a chore because that's where your eating disorders come into play. The eating disorders also come into play when you start to, put foods in good and bad categories. So a common misconception is that carbs are also bad. So when you say those pretzels are bad or, that bread's bad, we're going to use lettuce instead and make a lettuce wrap sandwich, that's unhealthy. Yes, it might help you in your goal in the short term, but it's not sustainable. You're going to binge at some point. We need carbs to survive, first of all. Second off, it's not bad. Eat it in moderation, right? So maybe you have to cut back your carbs. You can cut back your carbs and still enjoy the foods that you like. Maybe you love ice cream. Go ahead and find the ice cream alternative that everybody else has most likely already found, whether it's Halo Top or Favorite Day or any of the other brands that are sold at Walmart, Target, and any supermarket that you go to. You can find these alternatives everywhere. You just have to be aggressive and wanting to reach your goals, and you have to take control of your own life, right? I mean, Target sells a pint of ice cream in their own brand for, I believe, $3.99, and it's about 350 calories. Cookie dough, mocha, mint, anything you can think of, all these flavors are here. 350 calories is about a serving and a half to 2 servings of traditional ice cream. Major difference, their 350 calorie ice cream has 21 grams of protein. The traditional ice cream has about 6 to 7. So again, do your research. There are alternatives out there. There's Greek yogurt, there's frozen yogurt, there's a bunch of different things that you can try. Go ahead, take advantage of your life, take advantage of your goals, and reach the goals that you want to reach. You know, we talked a little bit about macros. We talked about your carbs, your fats, your proteins, and everything like that. Just a little recap, you know, planning, meal planning, counting your macros on MyFitnessPal, when we should be eating carbs, when we should be eating fats, and really just use your resources. Reach out to other people in the industry. Reach out to people you see at the gym. Reach out to people who are studying, you know, degrees within the field, everything like that. Go on and reach the goals that you want to reach, and I can't preach that enough. That wraps up a little bit of episode 2. Moving into episode 3, we're going to be talking about 5 ways you can work out outside of the gym, whether that may be at a park, that may be at your house, that may be at work, wherever that may be. We're going to give you 5 different alternatives as to ways to get your body moving, stay active, stay fit, even if you can't get to the gym or you just simply don't want to go to the gym that day. So we'll talk to you next week. Stay tuned. Keep hitting those goals.